What's going on, guys? It is Mackay Typhoon here from Mackay Gaming, and today I am bringing you a brand new video where I'm going to go through what I believe to be the best warm-up for Fortnite in 2021. Stay tuned. I'm going to go through a number of different techniques, different ways you can warm up, different ways you can train, and I'm also going to put a time for each one, which is just a rough guidance on how long you should be doing this for. But of course you have to apply it to your own skill level, because I don't know how good you are at the different elements, so that's totally up to you. Okay, so the first thing that you should be doing as a part of your warm-up is of course free building. This is absolutely vital to anybody who's trying to improve as a player on Fortnite. You must be free building. If you're not doing it by now, then you're certainly not reaching your potential as a player. I would recommend free building for around half an hour, but obviously more or less based on how good you are at your mechanics already. This is working on your building and your editing, so just kind of try and work it out yourselves really. In terms of what you should actually do whilst free building, this is kind of up to you, but here's a few tips on things you can do. You can practice double edits, you can practice high ground retakes, you can practice tunneling, 90s, building techniques. Just literally anything you're not good at, practice it, do it as much as you possibly can until eventually you become good at it, and then move on to the next thing. And if you're good at everything, well, just keep on doing it and try and maintain how good you are at all of your mechanics. Okay, so the next thing, a part of this warm-up, is of course training your aim. Now, the aim is probably the most important mechanic on this list out of all of them. When you think about pros, the reason they are so good is because they're so good with their aim. They literally always hit their shots for like 150 and above when using a pump or a charged shotgun. And this is what you have to strive for if you want to reach your potential as a player. You kind of have to think about it in this way. You can build, you can edit, and you can have good game sense, but at the end of it, if you don't hit that shot, if you don't put their health down to 0, then you're not going to eliminate the player. There's a number of ways that you can train your aim, and I'll go through the ones that I absolutely swear by myself. So the first one is Kovacs, and I don't do as much Kovacs anymore, but when I first started playing on mouse and keyboard, I then just absolutely grinded Kovacs every single day, and I can't explain how much this improved my aim. It was literally so good, and I would recommend anybody out there who hasn't done Kovacs to start doing Kovacs. I need to do it more myself because it helped me out so much. I'm going to do a separate video on my Kovacs routine, so I'll show you guys that later and you can copy what I do. But if you're not doing Kovacs yet, or you haven't bought Kovacs yet and you can afford to buy Kovacs, go up there and do it, and then follow my routine once I release that video. The second way is of course InGame Aim Trainers. Now, the most common one that people use is the one that I'm showing up on the screen right now, and that is the Skaavok's aim training map. And this is a really good map. It's not one that I've used massively myself, but every now and then I sort of jump on it and try and do a few of the routines. And this is one that I think is very useful, and again, perhaps I should do this more, but it's kind of personal preference. So if you don't have Kovacs, I would definitely recommend doing this in-game trainer. If you do have Kovacs, I personally prefer Kovacs, but some people see it differently and they prefer actually being in the game and training their aim on the game, which I 100% understand. So it's kind of personal preference, but these are two of the options, and then I have one more option that you can do to train your aim. And that is a slightly more unconventional way of training your aim, and it's not specifically geared towards just training your aim, but I personally see it as a sort of an aim trainer, and that's why I'm adding it as a part of this list. So basically, it's when you jump into creative and you load up the 1v1 build fight map that I'm showing on the screen right now. The code will be in the description. And basically you go into the matchmaking for this and you get put into a game with 10 other players. Now basically you just fight these players, so it does technically work on your building, on your editing, and kind of every single mechanic, because it's just fighting in general. But the reason why I've put this under aim is because for the most part it's just kind of like a crazy free-for-all with a load of players just jumping on each other, and I always just try and use it to focus on hitting my shots, trying to hit headshots, trying to hit sort of the 150 plus damage. And that's why I see this more so as a aim training practice, but also you chuck in some building, you chuck in some editing, so it kind of works on all of your mechanics. And I think this is a really good way of improving as a player, and I don't think that many people do it, so I would definitely recommend this. In terms of the amount of time spent on your aim, it entirely depends on your skill level. Personally, I actually like to spend quite a lot of time on my aim, so I'm going to put 30 minutes for this, but I actually tend to spend around an hour actually working on my aim. Again, I'm going to put 30 minutes for the sake of the video and for the sake of not making this warm up too long, but it's totally up to you, and I would really recommend, if you have the time, to up the amount of time you spend on your aim, even if it means you can spend less time on your other mechanics, because this is the most important mechanic in my view. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is editing. Now, this is the first part of the warm-up that is actually optional. Now, it kind of depends on your skill level with your editing. How good actually are you? Because if you're already very good at editing and you've done enough training in both your free building and perhaps if you've done the creative aim training that I showed in the 1v1 build fight map, then you're probably good to go and you don't actually need to do this part. But if you're new to editing, if your editing isn't up to scratch, then I would definitely recommend just around 10 to 15 minutes working on your editing on creative edit maps. Now, this is a slightly controversial thing because a lot of people question the effects of editing. But for me, I've seen people like Clicks, Mongrel, Benji Fishy, all doing creative edit maps, and they're three of the best editors in the world. So if they were doing it to get better at editing, then I think it must have an effect. Even if you still think that you're going to get more out of building and free building and in the creative maps, I'd still recommend, if you're not good at editing, just 10 to 15 minutes, do a few runs of an editing map, and you should be good to go from there. The next thing that you have to be doing is some sort of high stress fighting practice in creative. Now, I think probably the best thing for this is the 1v1 realistics map, which is on the screen at the moment, and I'll put a link to the code in the description below. But basically, you need to be doing something like this, or like a normal 1v1, or even something like Zone Wars. All three are good options and things that you can do just to get a bit of high stress practice in, where somebody's actually pressuring you. It's not like free building and creative where you can do whatever the hell you want. This person's trying to stop you from doing what you want. They're trying to shoot you, they're trying to edit on you, and you've got to try and do all of these things back. You've got to basically put everything that you've trained so far into practice and into fighting. And this is just a really good way of actually practicing without being in a game, so that you can respawn and you can go again, you can respawn and you can go again. Whereas if you're in an actual Battle Royale game, in arena or in pubs, then as soon as you die, you're going straight back to the lobby. This way, you can keep going and then you can work on what you did wrong in the first fight. And also, anything you practiced in free building, you can bring over to this and make sure that you're trying them out in actual fights. So it's not as easy when you've got someone who's trying to press you and who's trying to get to you, and you kind of learn a lot more from actually fighting people here. Like I said, my main recommendation would probably be the 1v1 realistics map, because I think that's the most realistic training that you can get. But it's kind of up to you what you enjoy the most and what you feel benefits you the most. And I'd say do this for at least 30 minutes. Longer if you enjoy it, and longer if you can. But 30 minutes I'd say is the minimum for this. Okay, the final thing that you must be doing is, of course, jumping into arena. Now, this could be seen as perhaps after your warm-up, but I'm going to add it as a part of this video anyway. Basically, you need to be grinding arena if you're not already at professional level, because you need to learn how to fight, and you need to learn how to fight in-game, you need to learn how to loot in-game, you need to learn how many materials that you need to learn how to end fights quickly. And that kind of comes a little bit from your creative training and your 1v1 realistics training, etc. But you need to actually try and put everything you've just learned into practice in a game and grind arena as much as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, an actual game is what you're trying to get good for. You're not trying to get good to be a creative warrior. You're trying to get good so that you can be good in-game and then actually improve to be the best possible player and get as many victory royales as you possibly can. And hopefully one day, eventually start competing in tournaments and placing in tournaments and just getting as high as you possibly can with this game. So make sure you're grinding arena, trying to end fights quick, and make sure you're W keying arena as well. Don't bother trying to go in arena and literally boxing up. I see way too many people in end games in arena just sitting in boxes, and I'm always the guy trying to push them because I want to improve. And I don't just want to get to champs, I want to get to champs being the best possible player I can be. And I actually want to deserve to be in champs. So yeah, definitely the last thing you should do is grind arena. In terms of the time on this, I mean, basically as long as you have to play the game. So let's put a minimum to say an hour, because that would be, you know, 3 or 4 games if you manage to play them all out. But if you can do longer, fantastic. If you can do less, then that's fine as well. But just do as long as you possibly can, grinding arena and W keying arena, of course. And that's it for the video, guys. That is the end of the warm-up. I really hope you all enjoyed, and I really hope that you can use these tips and it will make you become the best possible player you can be in 2021. If you have made it this far, I really appreciate it, and if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like, comment down below, subscribe below, basically do anything you can to interact with this video. It really helps me out, especially as a smaller channel. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.